Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the WGLEU. We are into Season 1, Match Week 2, and we have some great games coming up for you today. And of course, I'm not alone in bringing this to you. Is once again joined by the beautiful co-casters and my lovely co-caster. Ollie, how are you feeling today?
Feeling awesome. Should be, as usual, a normal, good day of games, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, and we need to bring some beauty to the beasts of us too. Melly, how are you feeling about today's games? You in the mood for some tanks?
Of course, always am, right? And I hope people at home are as well. And I think great matches are coming up. We already talked about it at the end of the last show. So today can come.
And speaking about that last show, of course, there were a good couple of games that went down. You were joined by Mitch for that one. We had to put him aside because he was getting far too good at it. So I had to get back in the action. Let's look back at those games, though. The three that went down there, they were pretty damn impressive. And a lot of the action was seen, and a couple of new maps got witnessed as well. What were your big standout points about these three games?
I thought the first game would be a lot closer, but it turned out that Kaz and crew were just a little bit too good for Synergy, and Synergy kind of broke down halfway through the matches. But that Tornado Rocks versus Virtus Pro was absolutely insane. I mean, seriously, if you haven't seen that, go over to our YouTube channel /WGLEU and check the VOD out, because it's an amazing match. Virtus Pro actually comes back from a 3-1 deficit and 4-1 deficit, even comes back to win it 5-4 on Ghost Town. It was amazing.
And with all that said and done, of course, that had to affect the overall standings, because this is a brand new season. All these points are being added, and we know how close it gets at the end of the season, so they have to get it all started early. You can tell so many times when teams kick themselves by those early defeats. But looking already, Wusa having a fantastic start to this season, picking up some clean victories, which is exactly what they need. Virtus Pro on course as usual, but outside of that, who stood out to you?
Well, Rox, as I just mentioned, they did a really good job. Yes, okay, they lost, but they took a point away from Virtus Pro. The only other team which managed to do that in Season 5 was GG Well Played, now kind of Team Supreme / School Bus. So really, a lot of props to them. They did a great job. That's definitely my standout there.
Well, guys, if you wanted to catch up on those games, as you said, head over to that YouTube channel, check out the content there. But regardless of that, just to give you a taste of what you could check out for yourself, we even put a little highlight video together. Take it away.
What an important take for Synergy to have lost at such a critical moment, and the push does continue on. John Corleone getting chunked as well. There's two LTTBs going towards Nadine there. Easy overmatch for those two, but the shots are coming out. Synergy trying to protect that 1390, but the rest of their team's getting rolled towards. Look at Mihailov, the only man sitting on the cap. These IS-3s for Kazna are setting up, and Mihailov is going to be on the receiving end of a lot of big 122mm shells, and he's going to get chunked right on down. Winnie the Pooh is trying to get there, trying to do some damage control, but there's always concern for Synergy that the damage might already be done. Have to respond to this. They need to regroup. They need to maybe change tact a little bit here. Total Best will be able to pick up FKK Schnitzel, but there is the kill feed filling it up with red. The Kazna crew players are getting some tanks out of the game. John Corleone just got wrecked there completely. Mihailov will go for the pick off on towards Eurofish. Vetso is low as well. Nexus takes a double tap, but here comes the Hornet squad. The double LTTB is moving up here. Ilian and Hyber now with red in their eyes. They're absolutely bloodthirsty, and they're going to go straight for Nadine as well. Synergy now no longer any ability to cap. They're just going to try and dig their heels in and hold on.
They're doing quite well in the Eastern Village, though, those two T-54s, but Ilian is getting himself into the battle now.
And you can see Winnie the Pooh is very, very low. Mihailov takes a shot from Ilian as well. The fire rate is phenomenal on those LTTBs, and look at that. Isna gets the clean up on Mihailov, and it's just Winnie the Pooh standing. Kazna crew, very impressive for them. Going to get pushed onto here. Ding trying to create these overmatch scenarios. It's not bad, but it's got to be very, very messy. Stefan going low as well. Lucian forced to back away. Hoffman comes in for the back, but misses a crucial shot. Bakushia will make up for that one now, and Derzenictor facing the full brunt of those shots coming out from Ding. He's going to go down. Hallucinogen now is the target. Rufy and Sisha trying to assist from a distance, but Ding bringing the aggression, and this time it's working. But then the turnaround, as soon as I said Kenny Boy shouldn't be heading to the window, he proved me wrong, and then just put all these bullets in towards his the enemy tanks. Look, that's one way to die on World of Tanks, straight down the hill. Hallucinogen definitely won for a bit of showmanship here, and Wusa not really on either side of the road properly yet, so Kenny Boy's going to get there to assist, and Stefan pushing up very, very close. Dangerous position for the man, and he gets completely taken down. Meritorious was the man who claimed that scalp. Cease pushing across, they're trying to catch a Percusia now, but he's He's only taken 1 shot's worth of damage. Hallucinogene is trying to assist as well. And Stoic finally goes down, but that is not the target that Wusa really want right now. The base capture has started. They're moving on to that western cap in numbers, but Ding have time to respond to this.
Yeah, and Ding also have the 1 tank advantage in terms of tier 8. Not good that doesn't need to just exploded all of his shells as well as Ding do push forwards.
Oh man, Stefan blew up so quickly. That's such a crushing blow now. Hallucinogen going down to half health. He will manage to pick up Akusiat, and now the shots towards Kenny Boy. They're able to force him back, but Roofy drops down now as well. Wusa, I mean, they're okay. They're in the balance. They're over on towards the cap. They're going to be forcing now the guys from Ding out. Tornado setting up on the middle of the road. They can sort of go left or right here, whichever the way they like. But now Coca-Cola's getting in towards positive here, putting the shots in his direction. Tornado's still holding on. They've got a good health point lead here. Those initial salvos early on really still helping him now as an implication of that. The Annihilator now on towards the cap. It's a dual capture attempt here from Tornado. And Virtus Pro don't know where to shoot.
No, Virtus Pro definitely out of this game, forcing the top damage dealer from the last match. It's going to go in and try and finish this game.
All right, Pobble, Coca-Cola, Just Cause still standing, but not for long. Coca-Cola goes down. Just Cause is low, very low. A 1 shot, in fact, and now Pobble is the last man standing. He's probably on reload, if I'm not mistaken, and he's going to get pushed onto as well. He has some shells, but it's going to need a little bit more than what he's got to bring to this battle. And Tornado Rocks have rocked Virtus Pro. They've come out of the gates, a very strong showing in this first map with some very interesting play through the middle. And Pobble won't be far away as well. There's no way that they can really spot out Pobble as he crosses up into that little gap there. But can Coca-Cola also get around and have a shot? Armageddon positive. Don't really know where to look positive. Oh, he's on fire! That's not ideal at all. And he's going to drop down, leaving his mate, the Armageddon, the last man standing. Of all the times you could catch on fire, that is possibly the worst.
Oh, that was bad. And, well, one reply by there by the Armageddon. Kusok, though, from the side. He'll surely finish the game.
Oh, the T-32 doesn't hit nearly as hard as those IS-3s, of course. And the Armageddon forced to push out. He knows it's done. He had 1 point of health left. And Virtus Pro in a tiebreaker. They bring back 4 games in a row there. Absolutely stellar performance from them.
You really were not joking about that final game. I think I need to go and rewatch that one. It looked so good. But wow, what a performance out of Tornado Rocks and Virtus Pro to pull it back. Let's only hope that today's games will actually be able to keep up to that sort of caliber. And of course, let's turn our attention to the 3 games we have coming up for you guys at home today. To kick off with, it's not a bad one, I've got to say it. PENTA Sports up against Supreme. That's going to be pretty good. Off the back, what else do we have today?
Utopia versus ASAP. Both those teams actually coming off a loss. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what they can do to bring themselves back into this league. Finally, we have the 2 Polish powerhouses, No Mercy and Strong CM. I think that one's going to be a great one because of that Polish element.
And I can't wait to see which way the crowd actually votes on that. You know, the Polish crowd, the fans out there, you guys normally vote in your thousands, and we love that. So I can't wait to put Melly, under pressure, having to keep up with you guys with those predictions for the final game. And speaking of Melly, of course, it's your time to shine. If they wanted to get their early predictions, their thoughts, how they feel about these matchups through to us, there's a lot of ways, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, our veterans do already know how it works. But for everyone that just tuned in, welcome, of course. And people, head over to facebook.com/WGLE. You should see it here. Like our Facebook page, of course, to get updates about the league, about the teams, about interesting news that could affect you in some ways, like winning bonus codes or stuff.
Everyone loves bonus codes, right?
Of course. And of course, get involved in our team vote. You should see it on the top of our timeline. Just follow the link, follow the instructions, get yourself in. Let's see how the community predicts what the trend is towards which team. That's the most interesting part, in my opinion.
Oh, I love seeing that, because you never know. Sometimes we've seen some really one-sided votes that we didn't expect prior to this season. People's opinions have really changed coming into this one.
Absolutely, and they're most of the time right. I mean,
I don't know how they do it.
I mean, if Ollie kind of, as our oracle, predicts the match outcome regarding his paperwork, which is most of the time right, and the community goes completely against it, and they're kind of right, proving Ollie wrong, which makes me happy, but...
I'm never really wrong. I'm just, I do it on the numbers, I just say that, I put it like that, and it usually ends up working. But yeah, no, the community are great. They really have an eye for the whole picture, and don't get too bogged down in details. It's great.
Okay, people, you've heard it. We have trust in you, so head over to our Facebook page and vote. And as said, by predicting the exact scoreline, you can win one of 3 bonus codes containing 500 gold and 8 days of premium. And of course, head over to Twitter, follow us at WGLEU, and of course, use the hashtag WGLEU to get involved, to tell us what's on your mind, to hand in your predictions via Twitter if you don't own a Facebook profile. We will reward 5 tweets of the day as well, so plenty of ways of getting free stuff.
And everyone loves free stuff, right? You guys out there, get on that. You have to get your free stuff going, because otherwise Melly won't know what she's going to be doing. You need to keep her busy. Anyway, the teams aren't messing around today. They want blood. They want action. And I can assure you this one is going to be phenomenal. And it's going to be starting on Mines. So welcome into map number 1. We're going to have Team Supreme starting on the defending side. On the attack, it's Penta. And what do you see so far that's standing out to you?
So we see a pretty heavy lineup from Team Supreme. They've gone for 4 IS-3s. Really interesting that I actually picked that one up. But it has worked in the past, so I expect it to work here. Of course, Penta taking that hill. I mean, we don't see a lot of teams go so aggressive onto the hill, but Penta not wanting to mess about at all, putting 2 T-54s on there.
And keep your eyes on players like Apple. Wow, he's in the top 3 so far of players hitting those shots, getting that damage done, and even racking up the kills. So quite the star-studded lineup for Team Supreme. And as you said, those IS-3s building themselves up on towards the hill. Shanish slightly off to the side with Phoenix. A beautiful combo there. The 5100 gonna focus on towards Hacky, who's taking a bit of a beating. That LTTB is gonna have to back up. And now Fluky is the next on the chopping board. Yeah, and also those IS-3s really are doing some damage. Fluky's got to try and run away from this one. He certainly does, but can't manage that, sadly. And now New Multishow is the one who has to come in and save the day. Message the other superstar, the Finnish young man is trying to bolster the numbers. And actually, Penta aren't done just yet. They're still in this game. They're keeping numbers up, and this is extraordinarily close. Nuclear is off to the side. He's outnumbered now, 3-1. The others are trying to breach around the side, but we've got New Multishow and Hacky trying to hold them back. New Multishow, known for his individual performance sometimes, is going to have to shine as an individual here. But still, this is kind of slowed down a bit. What's happened so far? Well, Team Supreme still have, I think, the advantage because they've got the hill. They've got a lot of IS-3s and a lot of hit points, whilst Penta have lost a lot of hit points. They got a few T-54 alive in general. They got most of their tanks alive, but still, you know, they have to find a way of focusing one of those IS-3s out, and you know, I don't see how they can do that. They've gone over towards the right side. Also, you got to remember that Ron is playing the artillery. He's pretty decent in it, so if you do stand still for too long, you're going to get a big hit to you. Well, we'll keep our eyes on him. He's down towards the south in that M44. You can just see him on the corner of the map trying to adjust. We saw actually artillery coming back in a little bit on Mines, and I'm very pleased to see this. We used to theorize back in the other seasons, will we ever see it in the old game mode, but it didn't really suit. However, in this one, surprisingly, even though it's faster, it certainly has its place. But look at this. Hacky with great intuition play here, just starting to search around. Do you reckon he'll find Ron for free here? I think he might find him. I mean, Ron's down to really like 1 or 2% hit points, but he also has the option of basically getting a sandwich kind of situation on Team Supreme. You know, can shoot the IS-3s in behind. He can do a lot of damage. Now, typically, Penta, when they played this map, they were pretty roaming. They were playing quite aggressively around. They like to find weaknesses, you know, head over towards that Lighthouse Island, and I think that's what they have to start to do. But again, they have to take that hill, and you know, that's such a hard job to do, and without it, they're really going to struggle. Wonderful crossfire coming in from FC Dynamo, another standout player for Team Supreme, just covering off Ron, denying an easy passage through for those southern players from Penta, and one by one, they're getting picked off here. Griffin coming as well, leaving just New Multishow, the dead zone, and Message alive. Now, that's quite the daunting lineup there, but not daunting to Nuclear. He takes down Message, leaving the dead zone, and New Multishow completely on polar opposites of this map. And the IS-3s are slowly encroaching towards the north, and I don't think New Multishow can do the damage from here. And you can see that crossfire. Applewell and FC Dynamo keeping eyes on from the hill. That higher ground really lending towards what Team Supreme is trying to achieve. Yeah, they're really making it work for them. And FC Dynamo finding star player New Multishow as well, leaving only the dead zone. And he's certainly going to be dead very soon as Griffin's rolling in slowly but surely. And those IS-3s are so daunting in this sort of position. Even though the sustained damage on that T-54 light Lightweight is phenomenal. It's not enough to stop Griffin. Team Supreme picking up round number 1. Not too surprising. But to be fair, that got quite close at times. You could see the pieces were in place for Penta, but they just didn't seem to fall in the right places.
No, and also just the lineup counter from Team Supreme. We saw it yesterday as well, where you just pick a lot of those IS-3s, a lot of those tier 8 heavy Russian tanks, and there's literally nothing you can do. I mean, we know that defensively, Mines is very hard. You don't have the hill, you don't have the timings correctly. There's really not that much you can do, but just by picking those 4 IS-3s, you completely overmatch Penta with those T-54s. You've got the artillery there as well. You know, it really does work, and you know, props for Supreme for making it happen.
And I like this, just confidence. We see so many teams becoming hesitant on this point. They'll slow down a little, they'll get too bogged down here. But Team Supreme took their shots, got their numbers together, allowed Shanish to push through to keep Fluky and whoever was in that LTTB. I think it was Hacky with him over that side, and the rest actually committed towards the hill. It's something that I see lesser teams stumbling on sometimes.
Yeah, and I think as well, one thing to mention is that there's 2 LTTBs doing like 185 damage. It's just not enough against those IS-3s. You can see the whole methodology of Penta was getting that hill, you know, classic Mine style, getting the hill. But the thing is, when they had the 2 LTTBs to try and do the side shots, it was either bouncing or just not doing very much damage. And 185 off an IS-3 just isn't enough to really bring any kind of significance to the game. So I think if I was Penta, I would be looking back and seeing exactly what I can change in terms of my lineup.
Yeah, and Melly, how did the people at home kind of respond to this? Have we seen any votes yet? People in chat are probably just about seeing this move coming in on Mines. Have they kind of been a little indicative of who they're thinking is going to pick up this victory so far?
Well, currently the vote seems very balanced. It's 64% for Penta, which isn't too high as we learned the past match days.
That's quite surprising, isn't it, though? Because Supreme has an all-star lineup.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. The ways of the community are never to be always to be trusted in this case. But
Carmen put it at like 55%, 45% to Supreme, so he thinks Supreme will win it, and I think it's kind of reflected in this percentage vote, because the community also 65%, and it's not that far away.
Yeah, the community seems to know what they're talking about most of the time, don't they?
We have a tweet that pretty much displays the impact that the first game has on the community, on the teams, and on the league itself. Mikey says, first game was what a belter of a matchup, massive test for both teams to see who comes out on top. So they know Supreme is strong, but they also know Penta isn't too far behind.
No, Penta's been a team on the cusp of doing wonderfully for quite some time. We saw their lineups in the previous seasons, which aren't quite the same as it is now. There were some changes, but they're still such a strong team. I think we can see something quite impressive from them here. Hopefully they've learned from their mistakes in that previous game and you know, maybe adjusted that lineup. As you said, it was a little bit of a counter. And what do you see here now from them?
So they have gone for something slightly heavier. They got Messig in the T-32. He's just going to be going hull down somewhere, try and get the side shots on. If I was Team Supreme, I wouldn't change too much up. Maybe be a little bit more cautious with the IS-3s. Don't go too hard up, and just make sure that you're keeping in mind that T-32 can get the cross shots. But in general, Team Supreme are an aggressive team. We saw last time they played, they like to go forwards, they like to really put pressure on in the early stages of the matches, and then, you know, kind of whittle the other team down. They're not particularly fast, but they're very aggressive.
And actually, this time they've done substantially more damage to Applewell, and it looks like Penta are rotating themselves off the hill. Is this a counter move, or are they still waiting to try and catch these guys off?
Ooh, they're definitely trying to get back behind Team Supreme before they can actually do anything. But Messig had taken a lot of damage in that T-32, and once again, Team Supreme have about 2k hit points advantage. So, Messig even getting a bit more there. So, Penta really needs to use their mobility, and I think they are by going towards that left side island.
And it's so surprising to see a T-32 just being almost trashed in the first couple of minutes. That tank becomes such a beast towards late game, and not seeing it be able to sustain that long could be a real issue. And there we go. Phoenix will take down Message in the T-32. The T-54 lightweight there, just really bringing that nice little bit of power, but Fluky being caught as well. One by one, Team Supreme are just taking map supremacy here.
Yeah, they've got all the cards basically now. They've got the middle area. They got a nice setup. You can see in a kind of half moon circle along the side of that cliff. They can just shoot Penta across into the island, and you know, Penta going for that cap. I'm not sure exactly how successful it's going to be, because I think SC Dynamo can almost hold his own against those 3 T-54s.
And let's not forget Shanish here. He's already starting to make a little bit of a move himself. Going to challenge down Hacky 1-1, and Shanish does finally get picked up by the crossfire coming out from those T-54s who are beginning this cap and trying to bring the pressure. But look at this slow fold coming out from Team Supreme. One by one they're peaking, which could be a mistake. Phoenix could get caught out here.
Yeah, and also Penta definitely making the right decision, pushing off from that cap and trying to get Phoenix down as quickly as possible. And you know, once they get him down, they actually have a few options. You can see the hit points not so far away, but Apwao does find Raging Potato.
They're trying to keep this going, Penta. They're just clutching at straws, it seems, and those IS-3s have so much HP, so much consistent damage, and look at this. FC Dynamo takes 3 back-to-back, but regardless, Nuclear's there with him, and you've got Griffin even making a play. New Mocho cannot escape. Lovely little shot on the go there, taking out Apwao, but with the 4 remaining players in Team Supreme, they have 2.7k HP. That cap is going nowhere. Hacky's running off, and Killer Pit is in the M44. What can they achieve in this one? It's surely done and dusted here.
Yeah, it's over. Killer Pit is a one-shot, of course, and Hacky and New Multishow are also along the same vein there on such a little amount of hit points. They did a pretty good job, though. I mean, Team Supreme, with so much hit points at the beginning, are down to about 1 tier 8 tank, so definitely props to Penta for being, you know, very good in terms of their kind of later game here, but Hacky and Killer Pit are just trying to delay this one and come up with a tactic for the next couple of rounds.
They're going to have to think fast, though, because they're going to switch sides here. So it'll be Penta on the defense and Supreme on the attack. We'll have to see how that pans out. But as you said, right now, they're just discussing things, thinking it through. What went wrong? What went right? How did they suffer here? Because already the IS-3 is heading north. Hacky's on his own as well. He's got FC Dynamo on the doorstep, knocking on his door, saying, you're not going to survive for long. Griffin surely will take down Killer Pit here quite comfortably. And Killer Pit knows his time is up. He's just going to have to face the barrel and just accept what comes his way now. Hacky to be picked up too. Supreme picking up 2 rounds now, back-to-back. Defensive side is a 100% win now for them. They now need to look at their attack, but what can Penta do? Because it looks like they're struggling a little bit here. They did do well in their late game, but initially they seem a little bit behind.
I think what Penta needed to do was pick AMX 3090s or a 50-100 with a smaller gun than 90mm, I think it is. So they get the faster reload, and they can get the shots onto the side of the IS-3s as they go up. But it is again about that lineup. Team Supreme, even though they you know, Penta got pretty close to taking them down, they could just bully Penta around the map. Mines is not particularly big, especially when you consider that eastern side it just isn't used, especially when you have the hill. I mean, the eastern side is just impossible to cap when you have the hill. So all Team Supreme were doing, get the hill so we have the eastern side safe. And then once they had that, they just simply, you know, came off, covered that cliff a little bit, made sure that they could just dip down into that cap if the cap got too low. It was a nice all-round tactic.
Certainly was. Let's have a little look back at it as well and just kind of refresh ourselves how this began. And I like this. They didn't outstay their welcome on the hill. This is something we noted early on that you pointed out, that you can't really withstand that many IS-3s when only really Apwao took a touch of damage in that sort of position. Yeah,
and Fluky was a little bit late there. I mean, if they were going to come off the hill anyway, I don't know why he came off so long and took a massive 455 damage shell. The thing is here, Meseg is already down to about 5%, you know, even less, maybe 2%. And that really just punishes Penta in terms of their ability to keep that middle area. And it forces them to go towards the left side. And altogether, just not very easy at all. I think Penta, they need to find a tank which is fast, but also can deal with those IS-3s. And once they have that, they might have a chance.
Well, let's hope so. Melly, has there been any talk now? They've seen a couple of these maps. The chat's starting to warm up. I even hear Rookill's in there as well. We've got some superstars coming over. How's this one going down in chat? Are people enjoying this so far?
Yeah, they're just in right now in the recap of the last match and last round, and absolutely fluky hype.
Fluky hype? They're on the fluky hype train?
Fluky hype.
Absolutely.
Oh, we'll have to keep our eyes on them now.
Things.
Just fluky things, exactly. Just that one guy. There's no team, it's just fluky. But if people want to maybe get some gold for their thoughts and predictions, there is ways, right?
Absolutely, by simply using the hashtag WGLEU and tweeting us what you would write in Twitch chat, and if you would be like, if you wanted to give it more presence on the internet, use Twitter. In Twitch chat, the rows are really fast roaming through. The chat isn't visible too long. Yeah, exactly. Too much.
right.
Too much capo.
This is how
we talked about that.
It's Kipo these days, but still, it's how I get chat excited. You know, you tell them one thing, Bible thump, they all go crazy. You know, they love it. They absolutely love it.
Just continue.
I will.
Break my chat. It's fine.
07, yeah, all of it, everything. We're here to make Melly's life a little bit harder, basically.
Totally. I mean, my computer has already a hard time rendering the chat, but well, people, stop being salty. Talk more about the game.
And speaking of the game, we are back into this one. It will be Team Supreme on the attack now. They're leading 2-0. Penta on the defense. It's time to turn the tables, hopefully.
Penta have gone for a lighter lineup than Supreme. Kind of interesting that they're not going for, not changing anything up. But quite often you see teams, once they get beaten by a tactic, they kind of try and mimic it, but they don't really understand the core concepts behind the tactic, so they often be quite unsuccessful with it. But Pentagon with the IS3, obviously is going to be sitting down there. Raging Zeta, I have to say, is an absolute beast in that one. Really one of my favorite players in heavy tanks, whilst Team Supreme obviously going for that T54 stack, and obviously the 251 played by Dynamo. But I have to mention, even within the kind of the core of GG well played, Apow and Shanish are really still standing out as great players. Shanish last match was the highest damage dealer, and he worked really well with Apow. So it's great to see that like individual school bus ability in that team. And
they're currently 3rd and 4th in the overall standings out of every single player in this league so far. So even the numbers backing you up this time rather than chat, proving you wrong. So it's very true. Those two are superstars, and you've got a really nice kind of base for a home here. You've got Ron at the helm, who's been a consistent in-game leader and consistently been pushing the top, and now he's got the talent to be able to take it through. At least I feel that hopefully we can see more from them this season. And this is looking good so far. Penta hadn't really been tested to this point, I feel. They haven't had a big opponent. This is their first try. And what do we make of their play so far? They seem to be quite hesitant here, quite slow on the defense. They're not really making any plays themselves. Is this just them trying to get a feel of what maybe Team Supreme are up to? Yeah, I think so. I mean, they've got a good stack of T54s behind. I think for Penta, it's going to be about, okay, where do Team Supreme come from? And we can rotate around. I mean, it is going to be about that east side cap, clearly, because they don't have the hill, so it becomes about the east side. Also worth mentioning that Ron's playing the FE304 very fast, might be a little indicator that even when Team Supreme, let's say they go to the west side cap, they'll just pop Ron in that FE in the eastern cap and leave him there just to put a little bit more pressure on. Also got a very good firing arc, and it can be extremely effective even against the might of the M44. But I think Supreme is just weighing up their options. They have the kind of part in the game, the setup part, where they have a couple of ideas they can mill around and see which one they want to take, and then they just need to commit to it, and they do. It does look like they are rotating around towards the left. Yeah, they are making the plays, and it looks like Supreme are also just testing the waters, and they're just kind of testing things out. And you mentioned Ron there earlier, so we'll keep our eyes on what he's up to. And the one other duo that I also used to love watching was Phoenix and FC Dynamo. They had wonderful synergy. I throw my mind back to Steps, for example. They were one of the players on the attacking side that crossed over those train tracks and made this wonderful crossfire. But coming back to the moment, Shanish did just get caught out quite severely. And look at this play. Just fluky things coming in. They're going to make an aggressive late game push towards the center of Mines. Going to try and take over the hill, try and lock out Nuclear, but he's staying alive and he's actually escaped it. Well, maybe into the jaws of Raging Potato, but at the moment, they're holding on to this. This is insane. This is a really nice push from Penta, and I think Team Supreme got a little bit caught out, and they're trying to get that hill back. They're resting on their laurels, and look at this. Nuclear's down to nothing. Applewell as well, and back-to-back, the kills are coming in. Penta had the ace up their sleeve, and they finally put it on the table. Hacky and Fluky need to hold this somehow, though. They've got a lot of firepower against them. Hacky watching the left, Fluky watching the right. The dead zone's got their back. Shanish gets picked up, and this is beautiful to watch. Penta, a team that really wouldn't be on the same par as Team Supreme on paper, is just absolutely ripping them to shreds. FC Dynamo's down to nothing. Fluky just doing wonderfully. Message as well coming in. The Finn is standing strong, and just Ron standing as Penta just throwing this game on its head. Really, really good prediction play. I mean, they pushed that hill at the perfect time when Team Supreme were rotating. They caught T54 by surprise, and then it was just really good. Also, Ron not doing too much damage than that FE304. He should have probably hit a couple more shells considering how many low hit point tanks are for Team Supreme, for Penta, as he will be the last one to fall. And I need to eat my words, because that was all about Penta picking it up now at 2-1. And I thought they were hesitant, I thought they were slow, I thought they were being a bit too cautious, and out of nowhere, they just stepped it up a gear, and Team Supreme didn't even see that coming.
Yeah, it's really the great part of starting from the south of mines. Even though you're slower to get up onto the hill, you have a kind of like little gradient going down. You can actually get on the hill pretty quickly, catch them by surprise, you have good forward momentum. They did some good side damage, but then they caught out a Nuclear who was on that hill, you know, and I think Team Supreme, they knew that they had to try and get it back, otherwise they would be at a loss, especially considering where their tanks were and Raging Potato's ability in that IS-3, so they tried to get it back, but obviously Penta had the better positions. Raging Potato and especially New Multishow, shout out to him with the AMX 1390, not an easy tank to play, especially with the accuracy changes, and they really did do enough damage to give those T-54s on the hill a fighting chance.
And looking back at this was when I was saying they looked hesitant and slow and just a little bit dumbfounded, Penta. But the whole time, they had a plan. They had a brilliant, brilliant little plan in mind that they were waiting for the right time to do. They were waiting for the information to come in, because it's something we haven't mentioned and we probably should more often. This game is all about the prediction play and gathering information. If you can get both of those kind of boxes ticked, you'll probably be one of the best teams in the world. If you can predict when, you know, you can't find the information correctly, and then also punish when you do get the correct information, you'll come out with wonderful wins like this. And this was where you saw, I believe it was Nuclear being forced off that hill and being caught out.
See, that's the thing. Nuclear was forced off the hill into a rock and hard place. Raging Potato towards his right, and Killer Pit behind in the M44. So great there just to push him off and really giving him no choice. Supreme try and do a lot of work here, but you know, SC Dynamo in that 251 just doesn't stand up against the might of the T-54s. You can see Ron's shots coming in there, missing the back of the T-54s. Would have been great if he hit those, you know, 350 damage odd. And yeah, you know, Phoenix just getting, you know, a little bit aggressive there, and Fluky and Hacky doing a standout performance to keep them on that hill.
And I love the way those two players, supported by their whole team, took on 4 of the oppositions. That was absolutely brilliant, but still, it's a 2-1 right now. Team Supreme are still in the lead. They had a brilliant display on their defending side. But now on the attack, clearly Penta have other things in mind. We're going to have to wait and see what they can bring going forward. Of course, you guys at home, get those tweets through to us. Has that just made your predictions come true? I think maybe you knew more than we did. We'll have to find out, but still, you guys keep using that hashtag WGLAU. Melly is waiting in the wings. She'll be keeping eyes on that, but I believe the teams are almost ready. Do you think this is going to be a 2-2? Will it be a 3-1? I don't know. You guys let me know on Twitter, in Twitch chat. Get talking to us. We love hearing from you, because I only get to talk to Ollie really about tanks. Melly just tells me about Twitter all the time, so I need help. Anyway, we're about to get into game. So as said, 2-1 right now. What do we see from these lineups? What do you predict?
A massive stack of T-54s. This is actually what Penta did last time when they fought Strink. They just took a massive stack of the T-54s just to go aggressive and, you know, catch out the other team in that last round where they can win and lose. This might just be a brawl in the middle.
And I don't know who I'd want to be on the side of. New Multishow with the likes of Fluky and Raging Potato, or Applewell, Nuclear. I guess it's Team Supreme if I look at it that way, but quite tentative. But so close. It's like the standoff here. If one team makes the move, the other will have the advantage. Fluky, however, is out on a limb, and Shanish does actually have eyesight towards him. Yeah,
he's in a really bad position there. And also, you got to remember, Ron is playing that artillery again, which will eventually whittle down Penta, so they have to go and try something here.
Let's see what they can muster together. Can they pull the tanks in? The sustained damage is starting to wear it down. You can see Ron's shells arcing in towards them. Raging Potato's low. New Multishow is low. And just one by one, shell by shell, they're doing the damage here. Look at the damage overall, though. Team Supreme does have the advantage, and they're starting to get to one in to get into the action. Fluky finds Applewell. Back and forward still. Message is low. So is New Multishow. They're both down to one shots. This could be fold time. And Griffin finds Message. They're starting to build. They're starting to look confident. Phoenix gets down New Multishow. And one by one, Penta are falling. Killer Pit still on great HP. Not being able to get into this one has just made them lose out on so much map control. Raging Potato is now out on a limb himself. And the Dead Zone and Killer Pit cannot help him out here.
No, this is really bad for Penta. They're still in the game. I mean, look at the hit points. It's very, very close. It just depends on what these 3 players do here as well. And I wonder what Hacky's doing from the side. He can actually finish off those 3 light tanks, but beautiful shot from Ron.
Ron picking up that kill towards Killer Pit has just completely ruined any chance I feel Penta has. But they do have 2 players left. And there's about 3, maybe 4 tanks on almost a one-shot for Team Supreme. But Can they find the angle? Can they find that slither of hope? Ron says no with another shot connecting. Ron missed a hell of a lot in the previous round, but this time he's been able to deliver. And the dead zone now has 4 tanks rolling towards him. Shot from the right. Phoenix already watching his escape. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And it's going to be Team Supreme picking up the 3-1 scoreline on map 1. Brilliantly done by them in the end, and just that Mexican standoff just went in their favor. But what tipped the scales then?
Well, the T-54s of Team Supreme were hulled down, and they could just shoot down onto the top, the upper glaciers of the other T-54s, of Penta's T-54s, so they had the better kind of armor coefficient there. And at the end of the day, I mean, the simple fact was that they were going to lose that anyway, because Ron eventually would just do the damage through the game, whereas Penta had that T-37. I think they should have just gone in for some sort of rush, you know, just push down into Team Supreme, pushed up into Team Supreme, dealt with them, go for that close quarter engagement, and you know, Ron wouldn't be so useful there. Even, you know, pick a couple of IS-3s against those T-54s. I think that wouldn't have gone amiss either. Clearly, Team Supreme, you know, from that northern side, showing once again that you can get that hill, you can get that dominance a lot more easily than from the south.
And this is something that almost goes back to the old game mode that we consistently saw, when there wasn't really the other options of caps. It came down to often who got the hill first, and you can see now why that side was often preferred in picks. And regardless, guys at home, your predictions aren't right so far, your votes are wrong. But Melly, how are they doing actually? Because we had this at the start of the game. They were saying that Penta should be doing okay, but now it's a 3-1 against them. Are the votes changing, or are they sticking with their guns?
Yes, no, the vote Penta was in favor, like most of the time during the first map, but that's kind of shifting now. They dropped down to 61% from almost 70, so within 2 rounds, that's not few. It's really a lot, and people, you can still vote. Head over to Facebook and use our voting application to participate. Let's see how the community predicts, and also, of course, enter your predictions for this matchup to get a chance of winning bonus codes. And already a lot of people did, and I see plenty 5-1 endings here, so let's see. But a tweet reached me kind of after the second round, which is kind of fitting, and we'll see it in a second. Mark says 2 words: nerf IS-3.
Get away.
Is it
I like
kind of
that
3
tag.
words?
I guess the smiley face is kind of in there.
It's an emote.
No. Yeah, he emoted.
Oh, really? Thank you for clearing that one up, Ollie. I live on the internet, bruh.
But still, no, I love the IS-3, so I'm not the person to ask. I remember when you asked me the first season, like when I just got into tanks, like, so what tank do you like? I'm like, I like the IS-3 because it looks really good. And I played it on 1 city map and I wrecked kids. It's literally just like, I love the IS-3, so I'd never say nerf it. But it is becoming more and more prevalent in competitive matches. Was that because of the update, or the maps that just suit it more?
Yeah, 9.8 obviously had a few changes with the IS-3 when it was transferred from a normal texture model to a high definition texture model. They gave it a lot more detail, including the extra tracks they put on the front of the glaciers, and that provides just a little bit more armor. And
because it needed more, right?
It's a difference. Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially with the pike nose there as well. I mean, it makes a difference between a penetration and a bounce in a lot of ways when you consider the amount of shots fired in even a single match. Then you have the top of the turret as well. The penetration zone, the strip is a lot smaller, so hull down it's harder to deal with. And you know, obviously the only, in my opinion, only weakness now from the IS-3 is the fact that you can still get ammo racked very easily. But you know, when you have safe stowage and all that kind of good stuff, it's actually a pretty low probability as well.
Okay, well, that in mind, I think we just answered your question. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? If you want more questions, or if you want to learn about the IS-3, there's your man. He can answer you everything, or he's just making it up. We're not sure. But still, guys, we're going to be back after a very short break. The teams need a second to calm down, rethink things, and get ready for map 2. So, guys, don't go too far away. Welcome back to the WGLEU. We are getting ready for map number 2. We are still in game 1. And of course, Penta up against Supreme. This is going to be a great game. And we saw a wonderful first map. Let's kind of just recap. If you guys weren't there, if you've just tuned in, of course, make sure you're tweeting this link out. Let's kind of look back at what we saw on Minds, because these two teams went back and forward quite some way. Yeah,
Supreme, first 2 rounds on the defensive side, with a lot of IS3s, 4 IS3s, just went aggressive onto the hill, got dominance, really just bullied Penta around with their small little T-54s. And then we saw, Penta use those T-54s a little bit better when they were on the defensive side with that great counter rotation onto the hill themselves. Managed to beat Team Supreme down a little bit, but they did end the map with a 3-1 scoreline. So, Team Supreme clearly showing, especially in that last brawl in the last round, that they are, a very, very good team on Mines. And being one of the newer maps, they haven't had a lot of these, even though it's they train a lot, they haven't had a lot of like real match experience on these new maps. So
what really separates, in your opinion, Team Supreme from the likes of Penta? Because they're both good teams in their own rights.
I think Team Supreme's lineup was just better. They had the IS3s. They put them on the hill. They were just very good with that. They had a good positioning, especially because the RS3, it's not the fastest tank in the world, and especially when you're going against T-54s. If you have one gap in your defense or one gap in your lines, the T-54 is going to be able to exploit it day in, day out. But Team Supreme had the lineups. They knew where they were going to go. They were very practiced, and I think it all just came together very nicely. It's good to see that real training actually pays off.
Yeah, it certainly does. You guys at home were glued to your screens for that first game. Melly, how are the people responding out there?
I mean, we have a perfect tweet for that one. Alley Cat says, the underdogs become the top dogs. That's pretty fitting if you ask me. Love it. Good luck. Hashtag Pentasports. Hashtag WGLEU. Look at that man. He gets it right. Hashtag WGLEU. If you
he knows what's up.
Absolutely. And if you people want to tell us something and maybe have your tweet shown on air, getting some e-fame here, just use the hashtag WGLEU to get involved and maybe win one of 5 bonus codes that will be rewarded or handed out to the top tweets of the day.
Get involved, guys. You have no reason not to. If I could do it and not get fired, I would, because I like free things, but I also like my job. Anyway, we need to start talking about map 2, because it's coming up, and if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be Steps.
Yep.
Now, I throw my mind back to these two teams in their previous forms, I guess, and what they were like, and I look at Team Supreme as GG well played, and I look at FC Dynamo and Phoenix here and what they were able to create on the attacking side. Now, for Penta, what stood out for you in their sort of plays on Steps in their previous form, and what they've been able to maybe transfer to this season?
Yeah, I mean, Penta never striked me as a very bad team on Steps. They were very good. I mean, every team in Season 5 had to be good on Steps, full stop, because, as I said before, it's a very commonly picked map. We see it a lot. It's
one of the most picked, right?
It was the most picked map in the whole entire season, and it's not surprising because it's a great map. Even though a little bit defense biased, they changed it. Wargame made some changes to the map, especially up north, which made it more balanced. Now, this season, it's kind of changed. We've seen a lot of southern attacks, and I think we'll see the same here.
Well, we're going to find out any second now. The teams are ready. Let's turn our attention to map 2, Steps. Welcome back into this one. 3-1 is your current scoreline. Current? Where's current? I don't know what I'm saying. Current scoreline.
Score and current.
There we go. I put it two together. Team Supreme are on the attack and Penta are on the defense. And what do you think Penta are going to have to deal with here? Because it looks like Team Supreme... Oh, see, why is this always happening with Penta?
Even when DeKillzor's not in the team, he likes to claim that tactic as his own. I'm a little bit dubious. I don't think DeKillzor can ever come up with anything that clever. But, they've put the 251, a great little sniping tank onto the hill. And, we haven't seen it for a long time. I think we saw it at the WGLA Season 5 finals. We obviously saw it at our finals. I think we saw it at the grand finals once.
I think someone tried and failed. I'm almost certain someone tried and failed it as well. But
it's a common occurrence for that tactic. But, they've got that up there, and it's very, very good and very effective at dealing with that cap on the left side, and also can deal with the cap in the eastern side as well as, Team Supreme just doing some blind shots.
So, as you said, if we can possibly do so, if the observers are listening, can we go over to message and you can just tell me what this really allows a player to do? So I think it's message up there in the 251. It's a great...
wait,
are you serious? Are we getting like both sides of this? I didn't know this one existed, though. Have they found a new spot here?
Yeah, they found a new boost. You know, you need all the tanks, all 7 tanks to actually do it.
This is phenomenal.
This is unbelievable.
This is great.
It could be the fail train, or this could work out very well. I'm not exactly sure if Penta have seen this one before, but you know, these teams don't train against each other when they know they've got a matchup. They often train against the Russian or the North American team, so I'll be surprised if Penta knows this.
I think FC Dynamo's up there. I think he's just about made it on the edge. He just needs a touch more of a push.
Yeah, he's made it. He could just turn right if he
there we go. Wow. And I had to say before, back in the north, I guess it was around A3, maybe A4, FC Dynamo and Phoenix had this wonderful spot that they used to make their own, and it looks like they've even taken that further. So I kind of hope we can see what FC Dynamo gets and what this now gives him vision-wise, because that's massive.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of vision.
That's a really good spot.
Yeah, and if he has binos or just coated optics, that would work out really well for him, and he's going to be able to support his team in A6, A7 area very, very effectively. And well, I'm just curious to see what exactly Team Supreme has in store for us in terms of a tactic.
Guys in chat, if you've got your clan watching, your friends, tweet them out. Tweet them out right now saying, guys, check this out, because these are new spots coming through, and you guys can try them out yourself if you think everyone can be as coordinated as these lot. And you're seeing the couple of shots coming out from FC Dynamo. Not spotting out too much just yet. But what's the bigger plan here? What do they want to achieve here for Team Supreme?
Well, I think they just want to get dominance over towards that right side. I mean, at the end of the day, if Penta peaks, Team Supreme is just going to be able to do a lot of damage against them from that high advantage. You can also see FC Dynamo shooting across the field. I mean, the shells actually disappear after 700 meters, so you know, it's only going to go so far, I believe, 700 meters. I think that's around the distance. And I think he just gave his position away there. Raging Potato takes a shell and, you know, he tries to get one back of his own onto FC Dynamo, but Cap's on the way, and that's going to be done by the T54 and the T37, and FC Dynamo's got the kind of hand of God view to defend them. I love watching this, and I can't take my eyes off it. I don't know if Raging Potato was completely aware of his spot, or if he was aiming a little lower. I don't know how they'd be able to work that out. I guess they'll just have to have that intuition of years of playing this game, saying maybe this is a possibility. But 34 seconds on the Cap. It's being started. We do have Ron in the T37 in there, and joined by Applewell, but we've seen this time and time again. They'll tease the Cap until someone peaks, and that's when you'll see someone like Phoenix or FC Dynamo be able to do the damage from afar. So we'll see if that comes into practice here. That was a nice little shot coming through. I'm not sure who delivered that one, but Ron is taken quite low. But the Cap does continue, 25 seconds. And these are all blind shots you got to remember as well. Oh, wow. Beautiful blind shot there by Killer Pit. I do believe he might have just been spotted, as, you know, Raging Potato does get quite a lot of damage onto that T32 for an FC Dynamo, so he's got to try and back out of there. Cap's still on the way, and Applewell's using that hole as cover. Yeah,
he's pretty much good. This will take a beautiful shot to take him off. He's, I guess, a little vulnerable, maybe in turret and at the back of his tank, but not by much. And even Nuclear now just kind of dancing on the edge of the line here. And Penta need to be careful, because there's 10 seconds left here, and they've not really started the counter move, but a great shot comes out from New Mold Show. That's what I'm talking about. The precision these guys play at is just unbelievable.
Now, actually, Team Supreme are definitely a disadvantage. They need to go out. They need to be aggressive. I know Hacky got absolutely obliterated, but he did his job. He spotted the Cap, and he forced Team Supreme's hand.
Let's see where they put that now. They have, what, 6 players left. They need to be able to somehow take on Penta, who are in a good shape. They've got 6.5k HP, 1,000 above Team Supreme. Obviously, the larger tanks, the likes of the T32, going to be bolstering their numbers, even though Raging Potato is low. So we see 3 players now lining up, looking like they want to take themselves towards the north. Tucked in, though, on the northeastern side. We still have Message up in those hills, still keeping the view over the top, and they're struggling to take him down. And now they spotted him out. The tracks are coming at you. I think Shanish got tracked then. He's going to be in, well, held in position for quite some time, and Shanish again unable to escape, finally back up and running. Just about avoiding the shell, but I've got to say it, Team Supreme are running out of time.
Yeah, and they're also running out of hit points. You know, Messick can just continually punish FC Dynamo and Chanish. So I would say if Team Supreme really wants to have a chance, they need to try and get the surround on Penta. The problem would be, of course, Raging Potato, but FC Dynamo did a good job to take him down to 312 hit points. So he is a potential one-shot, especially for that heat ammo on the 251, but it's getting very, very late for Team Supreme, and it looks like their last play will be in that cap again.
Well, I guess they've got to try something, but keep your eyes on the overall time here as well. A message, ironically, taking down FC Dynamo, the two players who are in those wonderful boosts. But the cap is now being bolstered by further numbers. 3 players now in there for Team Supreme, but the other 2 must hold back the Wolves. And already they take down Raven. That's Griffin doing some great work from behind the train tracks. And actually, the dead zone going quite low. Shanish still alive somehow. And really, this has gone a bit too far. But finally, they start pulling it back in line. But with 16 seconds, New Mulcho has to be the one to deliver here. You've got Nuclear, you've got Applewell. They're both looking in the right direction. 10 seconds left. The reset comes in, though. I'm not sure if that was Raging Potato or Killerpin. I don't know which one, but it doesn't matter as these 2 are now sitting ducks here. And you've got to say it, Penta on the verge of closing this one down. No possibility for a cap and only 1 man standing. And he is in absolute no man's land. Penta going to be picking up the first round in map 2.
Yeah, nice play by Penta. I like Messa's position. It's quite funny. He had that kind of like juxtaposition between FC Dynamo on the hill and he had Messick on the hill, and it ended up Messick actually coming out on top because of that reset. I think, you know, we've seen a lot of teams play for the southern cap because the southern side, I should say, because, you know, the teams have found that if you blind shot X, Y, and Z in that northern cap, you'll eventually hit something and you'll eventually get the resets because there's only so many places you can be if you want to stay out of view range. And you can see on your screens there the boost from Messick, the first boost of this match. So yeah, I have to mention though, FC Dynamo did a good job. He got Raging Potato down to 312 hit points, and he also forced Raging Potato back, so you couldn't actually do anything there. So nice job.
Yeah, and I love seeing this and how quickly Team Supreme also are able to get everyone in the right place at the right time and then place FC Dynamo up on that hill. So this is the beauty of World of Tanks. From season to season, we see constant adaptation from these teams. New spots, new plays, new tanks, new angles. Every single piece of these maps are being dissected by these boys week in, week out, and they find these beautiful angles. And even though it didn't really pay off to the degree maybe that they had hoped for, you can see the theory behind it.
Yep.
Now, they've got another go at this. Do you think they're going to try something completely different? Do you think they'll go for something similar? Or can they even do that again? Did he get spotted up there?
He got spotted, and you could see that Raging Potato was actually aiming at him with the T-32. But I think Team Supreme should ditch this this tactic here. I think they should go for what worked on mines, the heavy IS-3 stacks, and actually go for that right side cap. Or maybe go for a 5916, has a little bit better camo value than the T-37. It might just be enough to not get spotted, or it might be enough for them to do enough damage against Penta for them to actually be able to push in and take them down and kind of firefight. But the problem there all the time would be, even if they pushed in with a good hit points advantage, Messick in that 251 would have, you know, drawn it back into their favor very, very quickly from that top boost. And
for the people at home, Melly, how did they respond when they saw that boost coming out? I can imagine they all went pretty wild on that.
Well, I'm still waiting for their response since the 5 minutes delay they have towards us, so no teams can actually ghost the match. So that's all a security option here. And I'm really waiting for that one. But they seemed kind of impressed of what's already happening. And yeah. Good luck, Supreme. Counting on you guys, for example, from Dramen. So Supreme is really building up fan base.
They certainly are. But guys, let's see if they can keep building. So we are now ready for round 2 in map 2. Once again, though, Team Supreme on the attack, Penta on the defense. And Team Supreme are still in the lead overall at 3-2. So they want to get this one, get to that 4th marker, that very important marker. And what do you see coming out so far? Because this looks very different from both sides.
Yeah, but Penta have definitely predicted correctly that Team Supreme would go for that right side. But Messick in that 251, the really easy to penetrate German Tier 8 light tank, gets a couple of shells and down about 500 hit points. You also got Ron in that artillery, just missing on new multi-show. But Penta trying to get the cross onto Team Supreme. A little bit surprised that Supreme didn't go for something a little bit quicker. But, you know, with that M44, they can get that T-32 down very nicely. And you'll see this is the tactic we've seen a lot this season so far. And pretty much every time we've seen steps, they go towards the right side, getting hull down positions, and then try and catch out a tank that's actually retreating.
They did catch a little bit, I guess, towards Message and Hacky then. Not too badly done, catching a little bit towards Penta. And really, Penta just bolstering their numbers up towards the north in that slight defilade that the turrets can just about peer over. At least Raging Potatoes can. The rest, I'm not sure what they're going to intend here. What are they planning to do? Can they try and rotate around the map? Will they leave Raging Potato as the linchpin and everyone else just kind of, pull around? We'll have to wait and see. It looks like maybe Team Supreme are waiting on their move as well.
Yeah, they are. Team Supreme, they're going to head to the middle and try and get some good information on Penta. But Penta are definitely on a harsh rotate here now. I think this is good. At Penta, they aren't the most aggressive team in the whole league. It's something definitely a lot of people noted, that they should probably be a little bit more aggressive, even on the defensive side. And it's good to see that they're taking that advice and they've noted that they're one of their weakness is not being too aggressive. They're going towards the right side and going hull down. Maybe this is going to be a trap from Team Supreme, but a lot of damage to Apoel.
Yeah, New Mulcher in the dead zone were expecting Apoel to make a peak like that. The turrets were certainly predicting it, and they're holding on to this northwestern side. Now, so explain, let's say to me, who's not necessarily as accustomed to the very top-tier pro scene as yourself, why would they not just go for the Eastern Cap at this point? What is stopping Team Supreme from just doing that in response? Well,
they've always got to worry about Raging Potato in that T32, but they can. They surely can go to the Eastern Cap if they want, but they've also got to think about Ron, who's on the M44. He's got to get around, but I think Team Supreme can really win it in this at this point, because they can catch Penta as they do rotate back in towards that eastern side, and they can get the cap underway. Great prediction that Team Supreme has seen, that maybe Penta have overcommitted towards that left side.
Apoel getting caught out there. The new battle lines are being drawn on this map. It's very rare you see them fighting this sort of place, but Raging Potato was caught out alone. They spotted that weakness and they certainly punished it. He's down to 611 HP. That's below half now. And look at Killer Pit, down to almost a one-shot here. He can be focused down by Shanish as he is. FC Dynamo a little late to the party. He's bringing up the rear. You got Message and Raging Potato trailing behind. Shanish keeping the pressure on, and this is just wonderful play. Nuclear chiming in one for himself, and just back and forward. Team Supreme holding supremacy over the opponents. Penta just being pinned down, and New Multishow and Raven, the last two alive. The Ram comes out from Phoenix, and now just Raven standing. It looks like the prowess that School Bus had and GGL Played had in these brawls has transferred into Team Supreme.
Yeah, Team Supreme, they had a good amount of initial hit points compared to Penta. The initial damage onto Raging Potato made it very hard. Also, the T32 not particularly quick, so you can actually focus it down pretty easily. But I think that came down to just Team Supreme making the right decision to go for that eastern side very quickly. They kind of guessed correctly that Penta had at least 1 or 2 tanks there, so Hacky went down, Raging Potato got chunked down pretty low, and then it was just about a struggle for positions, which obviously Penta lost.
And now looking at it this way, if they go back in now on the defending side that they'll be on, do they have an advantage here to possibly win the game in the next couple of rounds?
Yeah, I mean, Penta have a nasty habit of comebacks, but I think I think Team Supreme really have this. They look like the better team so far, and 4-2 is getting towards a convincing scoreline for them. But anything can happen in the WGL, and especially at this high level of play.
And the one thing that I think you pointed out time and time again in this that stood out to me is how well they predicted these plays for Team Supreme. And not only did they predict it and meet them on each front that they went to, considering these guys aren't necessarily always spotted as well, you may not always keep that in mind at home. We get to see everything in our spectator client. These guys don't get that luxury. They have to use their brain, use the prediction, every single piece possible. However, they exploited the way that T32 was left on its own. It found, a bit of a weakness there. They were able to take it down to half HP before the rest could even really get into position to make any fire back. And I think that stands out to me. Now, what else stood out to you about that game? Did Penta bring anything new to the plate? They tried something different at the start, didn't they? Yeah,
I think the left side commitment was pretty harsh from Penta. I could see what they wanted to do, maybe try and surprise Team Supreme. But I think if they wanted to surprise them, they shouldn't have shot Apoel, because that gave the game away. And even if, 2 tanks were spotted for Penta, Team Supreme just made the right call. They saw that Penta had a couple of tier 8s towards the left, if not more, and then they just decided to push in all against that T32, or at least get that eastern side cap.
Yeah, a lot of things and possibilities now open for Penta. They, as you said, they do have a nasty habit of comeback, so maybe they can build something out here. But Melly, how are the people finding this? Has there been any more interaction through chat or Twitter?
I mean, chat is exploding. Twitter is exploding. People, I love you for tweeting so much. Please continue. Use the hashtag WGLEU to get involved, to tell us what's on your mind, how do you like the games and whatever. People love this game. There's so many new strategies, so many new options, and maybe stuff for people at home to learn. I mean, this is not only entertainment. They can pick up stuff for their clan wars, for example, and team matches and whatever. So tell your friends, get your clan mates in front of their computers and mobile devices or whatever, and keep watching.
Well, let's see if there's anything else to be picked up, any tips and tricks from the very best in the game, or at least some. Team Supreme certainly towards the top end of this. So we're going to be getting into this one, and this could be game pretty much. If Team Supreme pick up this round, they'll be in a phenomenal position going forward. And once again, we're seeing it on the other foot here. You know, FC Dynamo are going to be boosted up into where Message was positioned. And on the other hand, I wonder if they're going to do the same boost on the other side.
I'm kind of surprised, though, that Penta didn't just go in for an east side rush straight away, because, you know, there's not really any sense to have a 2-5-1 unless you're going for this boost. So kind of a little bit surprising, but, you know, Penta maybe just deciding to go for something a little different, going to the left side. They got that artillery as well. I think that's a good thing. But Penta generally has a nasty habit of going for this 6T54 1 tier 6 tank stack when they are on the back foot, but also when they're on the front foot as well. This is the exact same lineup they had on the previous map, Mines, when they went for that last round. They actually ended up losing that one. But, you know, I think Penta really wants this game. They want to at least take 1 point out of this match. They know it's going to be a hard one because, you know, Team Supreme is made up of the core players from School Bus and GG. Well played, really a solid lineup, a kind of dream team, and seems to be functioning very well together. Obviously, there's still a few little flaws that can be exploited, but good overview, good position by Supreme there, and Penta now needs to find a weakness.
And it's all in Penta's hands here. If they want to pick up the victory, they can do. They have the options available. They have the possibilities here. Dead Zone, trying to see if you can get a glimpse. And what are Team Supreme doing? Why are they heading south here? What does this indicate?
Well, they got the 2-5-1 up on the hill, so that's basically the west side cap kind of taken care of. And they know that they can, you know, put up position somewhere else, maybe predicting that Penta's going on the rotate, thinking, okay, so they haven't done anything for the last 2 minutes, so let's try and guess at where they would be, and maybe, you know, making sure that left side is taken care of is a good idea. But new multi-show in the cap now, putting a little bit of pressure onto Team Supreme. Obviously 120 seconds is 7:54. Takes a while to actually get that cap down. And, you know, Team Supreme now already have tanks rotating from earlier to get this one sorted.
Let's see what they do. We've got the T-54 duo towards the south coming out from Team Supreme. Not sure who that's going to be. Apoel and Nuclear, and very powerful combination of two players. Taking on quite the substantial amount of Penta, though. They're well spread out here throughout the south towards, you know, between the C and the F line. They've got 4 to 5 tanks just waiting this out. Nuclear and Apoel have to be careful. Yeah,
they might just get caught out. We've seen this a few times, actually, where, you know, teams just get funneled down in this area. You know, if you're pretty safe in this road, but as soon as you head up and towards the field, you're just in the middle of no man's land, you can really start to get some shots, even from, you know, artillery. So Team Supreme have to be careful. They are still in this game. You know, the HP is going in favor of Penta, and Penta seem to have all the information. They know where Team Supreme are coming from, and by putting 3 tanks in the cap, suddenly it definitely puts the heat onto Team Supreme.
Yeah, and there's going to be a time limit here. 8 seconds. They need to really get these, well, these shots to land. 6 seconds, make it 5. And I said it's all in Penta's hands here. They could have put everything into the cap that they have. Hacky is the last line of defense. They're holding back the 4 tanks, encroaching from the south. 5 seconds left on the cap. This shells will be coming in thick and fast. This is going to be down to absolutely the wire. 5 seconds again. The resets are coming in, but not quick enough. And I think they might have just done it. I don't know if that was down to the wire at the end. I think they might have just captured this, or it was just on the reset point.
It was just on the reset. 0 was the actual number there. So it's going to be bad news for Penta as they just about don't get that one capped.
1 second away from capping that one out. It goes down to 0. Then you get the confirmation they didn't get it. It was the last second shots coming in. The resets were there. And now they're going to put all they can into trying to punish Team Supreme, who are just waiting on the other side of these hills. Apoel, though, Caesar wanting victim as Raven goes down. And now new Mulcho surrounding on both sides. You've got Phoenix up towards the north. of Apoel just beside him, and Apoel will love doing this. These two great rivals from last season, and once again, last man standing is going to be messaging the M44, and I don't think at this point he can achieve much.
I feel kind of sorry for PENTA because at the end of the day, they were very close to winning that match, but you know, once you don't cap, that's the end of story. You know, you put everything into the cap like that, you try and surprise a team. If it doesn't work, you simply never win because you can get the surround, you can get the damage. So, you know, 0 was the actual number there, and, you know, PENTA just needed about 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds to win that match.
That's what it comes down to. When you fight amongst the 1% in the game, that's the margin of error. That's the margin you can get punished by. But regardless, it will be Team Supreme picking up quite, I wouldn't say the strongest of victories, but when it mattered, they looked solid.
Yeah, and I think, you know, PENTA, just with the whole T54 mentality coming out of the grand finals, I think they have to go back to the drawing board with that one. I think the IS3s definitely have a place in this game, especially on maps like Mines. I mean, you can make it work, but at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, as I say time and time again. 390 damage to 250, it's a huge difference, and especially when you do hit those higher rolls, you can actually take half HP. But on steps, you know, Team Supreme were coming in with a 3-1 scoreline. I thought in that last match, obviously PENTA got very unlucky. One reset would have made the difference.
It hurts a little, but for once, guys, at the start of the show, you weren't right, Twitch chat, and the people who got involved with the votes, you weren't right. And Melly,
and we know why.
Well, remind me.
Well,
Tell me
community
again.
voted 57% for PENTA at the end, but was wrong. Carmen, for example, was right at this time, almost. Well, he voted for 45%, and well, a defeat for PENTA, so he was right. He has to fine-tune his predictions. People, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Carmen is a very well-known Polish player that provides us with, well, some kind of oracle work there, predicting the...
He's like that, what was it, like was it crocodile or goose or something, which predicted every World Cup result, right?
That was
the octopus.
An octopus.
Oh, a goose?
I don't know.
A wild goose flapping around.
Well, seeing it underwater should have given you the hint that's not a
I mean, it's very close in terms of intelligence levels to Carmen, so I mean that's similarity.
Well, the goose or the octopus?
Both.
Combined.
Yeah, put together.
/CarmenWOT on Facebook, see yourself, and he was right. People at home were wrong. It happens from time to time, but I shall ask you from the community if Supreme is, in your eyes, maybe the new WT Dream Team?
Yeah, it is. I think every single player on there is amazing. I think a couple of them have to prove still. I think Griffin has a lot to prove as one of the team members. I don't think he performed particularly well for GG Well Played at the Season 5 finals, but he did okay. He was probably one of the better ones there, but still, it's definitely a dream team. I can still see a few weaknesses in terms of coordinations where some of the teams that have been around as a kind of whole roster, like Virtus Pro, can exploit.
Yeah. Well, we have a team with very strong players. Can this be a downside as well? Like every single player knowing how good they are and maybe clashing during time?
At the end of the day, you can't form a team of just superstars. You need people to support them, right? You always need that to some degree.
That's you with the support, weren't you? All the time.
Shut up.
Yep.
But still, no, it's true. It's like there's only so many superstars you can have on one team. They're only allowed to be that good because other players play around that as well, and they always predict or have faith in, let's say, the Apoels and so forth, that they'll hit the shots that maybe 90% of the time others won't. So I think that you may get egos clashing, but I think under the right captain like Ron, you can keep them in line. Some of the best teams, in the back of my mind were, these completely jumble of players where it's like you've got this very egotistical young kid who's super talented. You get someone who's like super introverted. But if you can get the right captain to get all of the pieces in place and play together, you can have a phenomenal team.
So it's not all about skill, it's also about synergy.
100%.
And people, if you have more questions, head over to Twitter and use the hashtag WGLEU to get your questions into our show and maybe get them answered by our experts or me or Lauren. Sorry. We're still working on that. And one day we'll be as good as you, Ollie.
One day.
Promise. One day.
We'll see.
When I grow up, I want to be Ollie.
I hear that a lot, surprisingly. Great role model.
The next team vote is up on that matter, so people head over to facebook.com/WGLEU. Follow us to get notifications about everything that happens in our World of Tanks WGLEU universe. So get your predictions in for the upcoming matchup. But before we head towards it, let's say it that way, we'll head into a short break. See you back.